Good evening, parents. It's great to have you here. There's so many parents here tonight. I'd like to welcome you to the elementary school back to school night. That's all I'm going to say for now. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Flanagan and then I'll come back in a few minutes. But it's great to see so many people here tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. I don't know whether that applause was for Damien leaving or me getting on the stage. I'm not sure. That's right, yeah, that's right, yeah, come on. I mean, let's face it, this hasn't happened for a while, and I wanted to start this evening really just by saying a couple of thank yous. And the first thank you talks to the nature of our school. As a Christian school. So I'm going to say a word of thank you in a word of prayer. So I'll just ask you to be with me for a moment as we open up our back to school night in a word of Christian prayer. Lord, we ask you to be with us. Fill this room. Fill our students, fill our parents, fill our faculty, fill our staff, all with your love and forgiveness. Let that love and forgiveness be an inclusive love and forgiveness that embraces everyone. Lord, let us not forget who we are. Seoul Foreign School, a Christian school for everyone. Be with us through the course of this year. Guide us with your love, your forgiveness, and your wisdom. And we ask you this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay, so that's my first thank you. My second thank you is to you, our parents. Can I say to you, I really want you to know that we entirely understand the challenges and the frustrations that we've had over the last 2.5 years. And those challenges have been particularly acute the younger our students are, your children are. And I have to say to you, and I do know this because I get an opportunity to talk to the heads of school from all the other international schools in Seoul and Korea. And I can tell you now, there isn't a head of school who's had as much patience and support from their parent body than we've had here at SFS. So thank you so much that your support has been absolutely crucial in helping us through what has been unprecedented times. The other thank you I want to make is to our teachers who have just, I think, done an amazing job in navigating all these challenges. But I did want to mention one particular person who doesn't get a lot of praise, and principals don't tend to get a lot of praise, and that's to Damien Prest. I can tell you now, I've worked with Damien for 8 years, and there's very few educators that I've come across that have got that same passion for the welfare of each and every one of your children, for their safety and for their educational welfare. So thank you, Damien, for the work that you do for SFS. And then the next bit is I'm going to ask you a question. And you've been given a bit of a clue. And the question is the most important people. And so I'm going to ask somebody to be brave and put their hands up and answer this question. I haven't asked the question yet. That's very keen. I'm very impressed. So the question is, who are the most important people in the school? Who are the most important people in the school? Go ahead, give us a go. The students. Great answer. Wrong, but great answer. And you're going to say to me, what? The students, the children aren't the most important people in the school? It's a bit of a trick question, actually. The children, in my view, are the school. And we found that out very, very clearly over the course of this 2.5 years, because we had protracted periods of time where we had this incredible campus of ours and no children in it. And let me tell you, it did not feel like a school. It really didn't. The children are the school. The most important people, really, the things that make a difference in terms of the quality of a school, are the teachers. And that's why my most important job and Damien's most important job and our school's most important job is to make sure that we get the best teachers available. Because a school is only as good as its teachers. If you have a teacher where it's not good for the year, then it's a bad year and it's a bad school. Simple as that. No, we don't pretend any otherwise. So it's really, really important that we do our very, very best to get our best teachers out there. And that's what I'll say to you now, that 9 years ago when I interviewed for this job, that's what I said to the governing body at the time, and it's been what's guided us over the last few years. And we're always looking to get better and better and better teachers every single year, every recruitment season. It's the most important thing we do. And I wanted to say that to you because I haven't had a chance to say it to you for a few years. But we'll keep on saying it to you. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about teachers in a moment. Okay, but it has been different over the last few years. And those of you who are not new to the school may remember that we sent out some questionnaires a little while ago. We do tend to send out questionnaires. But this was specifically about what are the things that have been most challenging over the COVID period. What are the things that we most miss? What are the things that we really need to make sure that we double down on when we come back into post-COVID period? And we're not there yet, but hopefully we're getting there. And three priorities jumped out at us when we looked at all the feedback. And the feedback came not just from parents, but from students and from teachers. And these three things jumped out. Bring back community, understanding student progression, and utilising personnel and facilities effectively. And we sent you out a document, and I know you've read it cover to cover. I'm convinced. But I'm not going to go through it tonight, but I did want to pick up on a couple of things that are really, really focusing our attention this year for 22-23. Okay, and the first one of those is bring back community, and one of those things is bringing back opportunities like this again, to get parents in and be able to talk to you and be with you in the way that we used to be able to do that. But there is one other exciting thing that we're looking to do, and that is we really did determine that we wanted to do things maybe a little bit different in terms of really making sure that we're working with you to develop what things we are doing in the school and how our children learn and how we learn together as a community. And so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to invite our Assistant Head of School for Academics, Jan-Mark Seewald, to join us, who's going to talk to you a little bit about something that you'll see more and more of over the next year and then few years, about how you can be more involved in the educational journey of Seoul Foreign School. So I'm going to hand over to Jan-Mark. Perhaps you could give him a welcome as well.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk to you, am I going backwards here? Sorry about that. I want to talk to you about an initiative that we've called The Gate. Some of you might have read about it. There's an article about it in the banner. We'll get back to that. The Gate really came out of, before the COVID pandemic, we were doing a lot of professional development at SFS for our teachers and for teachers from other schools in the region, in Korea. We were bringing in experts, presenters, our own teachers were doing that. It was very much professional, academic, teacher focused. When that all fell apart with COVID and things slowed down, we had a chance to rethink. And we thought, wouldn't it be great when we come back to rekindle those things, but maybe expand that also and not just do things just for educators. We are an educational institution. We should be using our talents and skills and understanding to take that further. So we also want to use the GATE, and the Learning for All phrase sort of gives it away, to develop further educational experiences for you as parents. Things like coming on campus and maybe experiencing what a class is like for one of your kids, or knowing how the diploma program works at the end of the school in 11th and 12th grade, those sorts of things. Or developing further student events that don't necessarily happen during the school day, things that we can move forward. There is for instance, coming up very soon, mainly for high school students, a student leadership event, and we're looking at doing that for other ages also. And the last one we want to really develop is service learning opportunities for the entire community. One in our mission we have dedicated to the service of others, and we would love to develop those things and learn together in the service of our community. So it is really exciting. I'm really excited about this. We've got a great team of people. If you want to know further, you can contact us at the gate at Seoul Foreign School if you have ideas for workshops or things you'd be interested in. As I also said, you can look up the banner, just Google search SFS the banner and look up the article and it gives you more info on that. Or I do have some hard copies here if you want to take them along. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And the general principles of the gate is really we want to move away from the model whereby we're explaining our education to you, but rather we're exploring it with you. So we genuinely are really excited about that. So look out for whenever you see the gate in our communications. Now the second thing is to do with student progression. And there's really very little more important than student progression. How are your children getting on? How are they improving? How are they developing? And the best schools in the world are those schools that understand that to be the best school, they've got to keep on improving, keep on being better. And our goal is to be a good school now and even better at the end of the year. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to move on. I'm going to show you a very short video, 2-3 minutes, and it's by probably one of our leading experts in student progression, and particularly in something called what we're describing specifically about student feedback. Okay, nothing is more important in the teaching and learning process than student feedback. What teachers talk to children about when they're involved in the learning process. So I'm going to show you a little video, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it's going to help us be a better school at the end of the year than we are right now.
The feedback was where we started, really, because a lot of this research on formative assessment was about different kinds of feedback. And what we found was that most of the feedback that's common in schools is the least helpful in terms of what psychologists have found. So there's lots of different ways of looking at feedback, but a very important way of thinking about feedback is whether it's ego-involving or task-involving. So if you say to students that you did very well, you were one of the best pieces of work, you did one of the best pieces of work in the class, that's ego-involving because it focuses on that person's position in the class. Whereas if you get feedback that says things like, well, this is what you need to do to improve, then that focuses on the task. And what the research shows very clearly is that ego-involving feedback is rarely effective and in fact can lower achievement. So when students get grades, when they can compare themselves with each other, where they get praise, the effects are usually, or often zero, and sometimes negative. In other words, that in many cases, rather than giving that kind of praise, you would have been better off shutting up and giving no feedback at all. Students given that kind of praise do less well than students given no feedback at all. But what the research also shows very clearly is the conditions under which feedback is successful. So the research shows, for example, that when the feedback focuses on what students need to do to improve, and in particular how to go about it, then you get very large impacts on student achievement. So the challenge for teachers is to take these very broad principles that I've outlined and work out what it means in their own classroom. The way I summarize all this is to say that I think that good feedback causes thinking. The really important thing is that when a student gets a piece of feedback, the first thing they do is think, not react emotionally, not disengage, but think. That's very important because what the research on student motivation shows is that when they're faced with a task or with a responsive piece of work, students basically make a choice between deciding either to protect their well-being or to engage in activities that will actually help them grow as individuals and in their achievement. And if the first reaction of a student is to protect themselves and to restore their sense of well-being, what you'll find is that students focus on the things that will do that for them and they won't focus on the learning. So what we need to do is to give students feedback that helps them move forward, give them feedback that makes it clear that ability is incremental rather than fixed, Because if we send the message to students that ability is fixed, then if you're confident of being able to engage in the task, you'll go for it for the brownie points. But if you're not confident, or think that you might actually fail when other people will succeed, you will disengage. And basically, you will decide that you'd rather be thought lazy than stupid.
Now, a little earlier, I said to you we wanted to change our model. We wanted to stop necessarily explaining things to you and explore things with you. And actually, that video I shared with the whole of our teaching faculty just about 2 weeks ago to start this process of trying to help us make sure that we're going to be better at the end of the year than we are at the beginning of the year. And the second thing I want to say about this is that you heard him you heard Dylan William, who is a world authority, talk about the evidence and the data. And the best schools look at the evidence and the data to help drive their improvements. But we have to focus. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how we're going to focus on doing the best for your children. And that means that this year we're having a whole school target. And by whole school target, I mean every single educator in our school is going to be working on making sure that they are improving at that delivery of quality feedback. Now, I can tell you, many of our teachers and all of our teachers give feedback every day and give great feedback. But again, it's not about being complacent. It's about saying, how do we make it even better? And so this is just one way that we're making sure that we're doing the best for you, your families, and your children to give the very, very best education that we can. So I'm going to finish here. I'm going to hand over to Damien. But I would like to just re-emphasize how much we appreciate your support. We appreciate how, in such good numbers that you've turned out in this evening. Can I say to you that the elementary school has never been bigger. We've got over 500 children in the elementary school. And that, I think that shows the level of trust you've placed in us, and we hope that that trust isn't misplaced. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'm going to hand over to Damien now. Thank you so much.
So welcome again, everyone. And today, one of the takeaways, I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 things this evening, but one of the most important things I'd like you to walk away with is just that feel of being welcome. It's so great to have so many people back on campus, to have you in your sons and daughters' classrooms, for your teachers to meet you in person. They're excited about that. They're sick of Zoom, just like you are. They want you back on campus, so it is great just to have you here. So no matter what you take away from today, please know we're so excited to have you back on campus. It's great to see you at pickups and drop-offs. It's great to see some parents outside chatting. So thank you, and please know as soon as we can open up more, that's one of our goals, and I welcome you all tonight, and thank you for coming. Now, I haven't spoken to most of you for years, and I was thinking about what do I talk about tonight for about 10 minutes. Decisions. And so I decided to talk about the curriculum, because that's the key of what we do in the elementary school. In all schools, it's so important for learning. So I'm going to give a quick overview and a little bit about the future, where we're going. So over the last 8 years, there's been a number of changes in the elementary school. We've moved to a PYP school. We do the Readers and Writers Workshop from Columbia University. We use their phonics scheme. We're play-based in the early years. We have Managed Back. We have Seesaw. Student-led conferences. These are all new initiatives we've introduced over the last few years. Now, looking at that list, for me, there is one big area that sort of hasn't been touched. And this area has sort of been one of the backbones of our learning that has allowed us to change other things, but now it's time to look at that area. I wonder if anyone knows what it is. It's math. And I am well aware how important the subject math is. My son is in grade 12. I know how important that is for university and all our students' future. And so math is a subject we've started to look closely at. So I'm going to walk you through the journey we've been on, explain where we are, and talk about a little bit about some of our considerations and what the future may look like. It's a very exciting time. I'm really, really excited where we're going. So our journey started about 10 years ago when the Seoul Foreign School, the elementary school, and the middle school started using Math and Focus, which is basically Singapore maths from Singapore, taken to America, aligned with the Common Core and remarketed. So we've been doing that for 10 years, and it's been a very successful program. Children like it, teachers like it. We've got lots of resources, lots of support. It's gone very well. But what's happened, the current version we have has been discontinued, which is not unusual with resources. And of course, they've launched a new version of that. But it doesn't come with the digital resources outside of the USA. And perhaps this was a really good thing for us because it really got us to really review and start thinking about how we teach maths in the elementary school. So at the start, it looked like a real challenge for us as a school, but it really got us thinking about how good maths looks like, what sort of mathematicians we want our students to be. And one thing we were sure on, we wanted our children to love math. You know, that joy of learning is so important. So when we started reviewing anything in the elementary school, or I'd say Seoul Foreign School, for me, I always turn to this disc. This is the PYP, sort of a one-page summary of that. And why I love this is right in the centre of this is the child. And then on the next ring is teaching and learning. So if we get the teaching and learning right, we will have the best experience for the child. And so that was the heart of our decision making moving forward. So the math journey, what have we done? So we've known this for a little while, and we've been working hard behind the scenes. So what we first did, we wanted some expert advice. So we reached out to 12 math consultants. We scoured the world for people who are highly recommended from other quality schools, and we put a bid out to them to see if they would be interested in working with us. 12 replied, and then we went through a selection and interview process to find someone who would fit our needs at Seoul Foreign School. From there, we selected a gentleman called David Little. Some of you have met him, some of you have been in meetings with him. He's currently the math coach or instructional coach at the International School of Dusseldorf, and he writes textbooks and does research for certain companies. He's very well versed in maths and he knows his stuff. So we've committed to work with him, and he's committed to work for us for the next 2 to 3 years as a consultant. So we're very, very excited about what that will lead us to and what we've already done already. So already last semester, sorry, I'm clicking too fast. Last semester, he met with teachers, he met with a group of parents. Twice he met with groups of parents, and he conducted a review of our maths program, where we are. He made some suggestions, how we could move forward with it. And it was very, very exciting. Teachers have seen this, lots of options, and what's going to happen. But when we got the options, there were a number of considerations for us as a school, and at the heart of those considerations was our learners, how we can ensure we've got the best math program for them. So what we did, we looked at 3 major things. One of those was obviously research. One of those, the understanding that math is a science of patterns. Patterns are so important in math. We think about times tables, we think about shapes, we think about fractions. It's just so important. And it's something as adults, we've had all this learning we take for granted. So I've got a little fun activity to do now. If I go to my next slide, we're going to count some beads. Now, there is no pressure here. I'm not going to call on anybody, okay? You don't have to tell me the answer. It's all done in your head. It's a safe and secure environment, okay? So take part in the activity. So I'm going to put some beads on the board, on the display, for a few seconds, and I'd like you to quickly count them. Okay. Now, I will tell you, I gave you 2 more seconds than the teachers got. So I'm going to show the same amount of beads again, but I'm going to show them a different way for the same amount of time. See if you can count them this time. Now, I would argue, and maybe I could be right, that the second time it was probably easier. Was that true? Because you were actually calculating, not counting. Your brain did it automatically because it worked out the pattern. And that's an example of how important patterns are in learning mathematics. If you just look how they are now, it's much easier to count the second one than the first. So that's why patterns is important and something we looked carefully at because we know it's so important in developmental learning of math. The next thing we looked at is really how the brain learns. How do we learn anything, not just maths? What do we go through? So on this slide, you can see the environment. That's the classroom. And we learn through our senses. And how I relate to this the best, we can all remember when our children were young, when they were babies, when they were crawling, how everything went to their mouth. And they were learning through taste. Now those 5 senses are so important in learning because we want everything to get to the long-term memory. Because once it's in the long-term memory, you can retrieve it, you can use it, and that's the key. So we've looked at the science behind learning and how we can use that to help us improve our teaching of mathematics. And definitely getting things into long-term memory is a key. Next up, we looked at the CPA, or the Concrete Pictorial Abstract Method. Now, if you're familiar with Singapore Maths, this is a key of that program. So it's actually starting with concrete, with blocks, something physical, moving to pictorial, which is something they draw. Some of you may know the bar model that's there, and then going to the abstract, the numbers. And we know this does help move things to long-term memory. We know it hits 3 of the 5 senses. We know it's a great way from research to learn. So there are 3 big areas we've looked at when we're looking at mathematics. Where are we now? So for now, right now, in the elementary school, we're continuing with Math and Focus. We have all the resources on hand, and the teachers already started teaching them. I was in all grade 4 classes today, and all those teachers were teaching Math and Focus. They had the books out, they had slides, they were using them. Behind the scenes, we're looking at resources, we're looking at teacher training. We've already started on the training. During orientation week, before the students came, we had training then, and then in faculty work days coming up, we're doing 2 more days of on-site campus. Our consultants flying into Seoul to spend 2 days with us. So this is a very, very exciting time with us, I feel, for math. And again, I know this is a very, very important subject, so I will keep you updated as we go through it. But I'm confident we'll come out at the other end when we launch our new program that is more hands-on, that is more practical, that is more fun for our children, and they'll get a greater love of math because that's so important. So that's sort of where we are with mathematics. It's an exciting change for us. And like I said, as we move forward, I'll continue to update you. Now, linked to maths is parent chats. Parent chats are so important because it's a great way for us to share the learning with you. Here's a list of parent chats that are going to happen over the academic year. All those chats will be live on campus. A large number of them will be followed by visits to the classroom. Now, that's on purpose because we know you'll come. Okay, if we get you into the classroom. Plus, just hearing how learning occurs, it's much easier if you see it, if you use the sense of sight to see what's going on. So look out for my weekly message. You'll see information on those chats, and I encourage you to come along, especially those ones where we will be visiting classrooms. We'll explain something to you, and then like language learning, which is a reading writing workshop, we'll explain to you about that, and then we'll give you an opportunity to go into the classrooms and see that live happening. Next up, a shout out to the Parent Association. Now the Parent Association, or the PTA it's called in many schools, is vital for the success of a school. And what the PTA do is support the students and support the school. Now the PTA have already started this year. They've been very busy recruiting members, and it's very, very exciting to see the progress they've made. Tonight, when you meet your teachers, they will talk about room parents. So room parents is an opportunity for one parent or 2 parents in a class to come together to help support the teacher. They may help with a class party. They may help with an excursion, a field trip, or just a fun day it happens at school. So it's a contact for the teacher. So if you'd like to be a room parent, the teachers will be asking tonight, please let them know. We'd love to have you. But the PTA, do many other events. Here's some of the other events that happen in the year. We have Lower Sports Day and Upper Sports Day. We're looking at introducing actually a swimming carnival this year into our schedule for the children. We have Career Week, where we celebrate our host country. Thanksgiving and Christmas events. Book fairs. House disco, always popular. Teacher appreciation lunch, perhaps more popular. And the grade 5 promotion, one of our highlights of our year for our grade 5 students. So the PTA are so involved in the school, and like all organisations, many hands make light work. So if you are available, I'd encourage you to join them, support them. If we all do a little bit, it'll benefit our students, because remember, it's all for the students in our school. Next up, lanyards. Now, it's great to see so many people in the audience with their lanyard on. Now, many of us, or many of you, go to work each day and you understand why you wear them. You wear them for security. So when you go into your office or your building, everyone knows who you are. And it's the same at Seoul Foreign School, except we have your most valuable thing. That's your children. So security for us is even more important. So I'd ask you, when you come to campus, to wear your lanyard. If you haven't collected yours, you can collect them today from the elementary school office. They're there to collect. If you haven't uploaded your photo, you can do that on the website. But it is something we're going to start challenging all visitors to campus. Are you wearing your lanyard? Not because we want to have a difficult conversation, but because we want to keep our students safe. And knowing who's on campus at all times is a way to do that. So thank you for wearing them today. If you haven't got yours, you can collect today. If you haven't uploaded your photo, you can still do that. It's important for everyone's safety. Next, I've gone really fast, and that's good because I'm on time for the teachers. So sorry for speaking so fast. How I've broken up, that's the events, what's going to happen next. And to make it a little bit simpler, I've put it in if you have 1 children or 2 children. So if you have 1 child in the elementary school, this is what you'll do next. At 6:15, you'll go to, or right now after I finish, you'll go to your teacher's homeroom and your teacher will give a 30-minute presentation. Once that's finished, the specialist teachers are available to have a conversation with you. Remember, they've shared, preloaded their videos with you. Now, if you have 2 children, once you're finished with the specialist teachers, you are finished. You can go home then if you like. If you have 2 children, the only difference is there's 2 homeroom sessions. So if you go to your first homeroom for 1 child, then a second homeroom for the second child. Both homeroom sessions are exactly the same by your homeroom teacher. So you're not missing anything by going to the first one or second one. They're exactly the same. Now, some of you have got 3 children. That's where we have problems. Okay. No, if you have 3 children, I know some of you do or more. If you're not here with your husband or wife or your partner, we can, of course, share those slides with you, arrange another time. So that is the schedule for tonight. It starts at 6:15, so we've got a good 8 or 9 minutes, 10 minutes to get there, so we don't have to hurry. In a moment, we'll depart here and we can leave from upstairs and downstairs. We'll make our way across to the elementary school. There's signs up as into which room is your homeroom. There'll be people around to direct you and help you. But as I started, I'd like to just finish with a huge welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's great to see so many parents here. This sends a huge message to your sons and daughters how important learning is if you turn up to events like this. So thank you for coming. Thank you for learning more about what we do at Seoul Foreign School, and thank you for being part of our community. Thank you so much. Okay, let's not stampede now. Okay, so my advice would be, if up here, these people can just go straight there and then we file out the back. And it may be easier actually for the people in the front. Sometimes it's faster in my experience just to go out here. But thanks so much for coming. I hope you enjoy the sessions with teachers.